Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Talking 76 Q&A episode. Today, we are going to be talking about the Season 2 of the Fallout 76 roleplay. And I have with me today Dink Maker, who plays John in the roleplay.
Hey, everybody.
And we are here in Keren and John's house this time. Now,
Yep.
the questions that we're going to answer, we have collected from the various comments on the videos, on the episodes of the Let's Play. And also, you guys submitted questions for this Q&A a while back on the Discord and on my channel community tab. And we have had a lot of duplicate questions, so I will just be reading the questions and not necessarily the names of the people who asked for them, because who asked them.
Right.
Because
Makes sense.
yeah. All right. Well, let's get into it. It's been a long season, hasn't it?
Oh my God. I was sitting here trying to think of when we started season 2. It's got to be 2 years ago already.
Has it been 2 years?
It's got to be.
Wow.
But I don't remember. It's been quite a while. A
It's
lot's
been
changed.
it's been more than a year for sure.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Way more. Way more than a year. Because, yeah, just to the stuff that's gone on in my personal life. Yeah.
Yeah.
It might be more than 2 years.
Oh no. And it's been quite a long time since we stopped recording episodes too. I know the series only just ended on the channel, but we stopped recording episodes months ago. I don't
Right.
even remember. Like it was still like end of summer maybe?
Fall, right?
Yeah, beginning of
End of
fall, end
summer.
of summer,
Yeah.
something like that, that
Yep.
we finished recording. And so you and I actually haven't really done anything together in a while.
No,
So,
Just a few reshoots.
yeah.
But yeah.
So, it's like a little reunion.
Yeah. So hey, how's it
Yeah,
going?
yeah,
How are the
fine. Yeah,
kids?
good.
Blah
Yeah.
blah blah. Uh
Busy. Life has been extremely busy, which is why I've been so late getting out the season finale, which was supposed to come out in October, but it didn't.
oh
Cuz
my God, you're right. It was.
cuz life happened big time for me. So, but,
Yeah.
here we are today. So it's all good. All right. Well, let's get into the questions. Season 2 had some big things happen in it. And
Yep.
we brought in another player who collaborated with us. And probably that was one of the most asked questions is who plays Kade?
The funny thing about that is that Kate is very active in the chat of the videos.
In the
And
comments,
I'm
yeah.
like, yeah, I'm just like, just read the comments. It's obvious. I don't want to out him. I don't want to name his name, but he's a great guy. He's about my age and
He's
has a very unique perspective. Well, at least from where I sit, a very different perspective on the game for me, and so it added quite a bit. I thought to have somebody who could actually flesh out the Raider life, because nobody else in our crew really could do that. So without him, the story we really wouldn't have been able to do it.
right. Yeah. Because we needed a raider.
Yep.
um oh, and by the way, his screen name on our Discord is Deacon.
Right.
Deacon Cross 70 or 60, well, I don't remember the number.
67, I think.
67. That's
I think
him
so.
on the Discord. Anyway, we needed a raider. We had the idea for the entire plot line where John sort of goes over to the raider side for a little while. But in order to make it work so that we're not just showing him interacting with the NPCs all the time or just that he's talking to himself all the time, we wanted him to have a companion that could go with him on the quests. And we tried to find somebody a long time before that episode, the first episode, we needed
Right.
recorded, but we weren't getting any hits. We were trying to hold auditions. We tried to, like we followed the procedures that we have set in place for how to recruit people. First trying the patrons, and then if we don't get any hits there, we try on Discord, and if we don't get any hits there, then we try the general subscriber populace.
Right.
And the general subscribers is like the last resort, because we don't know who these people are. We don't know who is out there, and we've never talked to anybody like from just the general subscriber base. We prefer to take people from the patrons first, because we know that they're really committed to the channel and to the show, and they would want to be reliable and be there and do what we need them to do.
Right.
And
Yeah,
that.
I don't know that many, sorry, but I'm just going to throw this in. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know that many people realize how much commitment it takes.
Mm-hmm.
And so the worst thing that could happen would be for us to pick somebody out of the community who thinks it's going to be a fun little romp and it's going to be a couple of hours and done.
Yeah.
Uh, the great thing about Cade is that even though we did meet him through the community, man, did he step up. I mean,
Oh yeah.
oh my God, the hours and the money
He rearranged
that
his life to join
right.
us. He did.
And
Yeah.
you just can't assume that somebody that enjoys the channel and is just having fun is actually going to make that kind of a commitment. And
Right.
because it could have destroyed the entire season if he would have said, you know what, this just isn't fun anymore, and then bailed out when we still had 4, 5, 6 episodes to go.
Right. It would totally have ruined it. Yeah.
Totally would have. It would have killed. There would be no season 2 had he done that. So we're just taking a really big risk
Yeah.
unless we can trust the person, they've been in the community for a long time, and we can trust that they'll be there. But anyway, I just wanted to make that point real quick. But
Right.
so thank you. Yeah.
And so then we tried on Discord, but we didn't get any hits there. We had some people who were like, "Oh man, I wish you played on PC or PS4. I'd love to join," but we didn't get any hits. We didn't get any auditions from people on Xbox,
Right.
and the deadline for recruiting somebody was just fast approaching. Like we
Well, it
were.
was past. Remember, we threw away a bunch of episodes when Cade volunteered.
Yeah, we were like, okay, so John really needs to go to the Raiders now. I think we actually stopped recording for a couple weeks because we didn't have somebody, and we needed to find somebody before we could do the next episode. The next episode, it was like the last possible moment where we could hold off any longer. We were like, okay, we can't record another one until we have a Raider guy. So if I remember right, this was a long time ago, so I may
It
be
was a long time ago. Yeah.
remembering it wrong, but I recall that we actually took a couple weeks off from recording because we couldn't progress without a Raider dude. And so and actually just the way we got a hold of Deacon, who plays Cade, he it wasn't like he didn't respond to our audition announcement, because it had been a while since we announced it, and I was starting to think, well, we're just going to have to do a general audition on the channel. And I was starting to just try to wrap my head around doing that when Deacon just joined the Discord out of the blue. He just joined, and he posted a couple times, and he just posted once, and he was like, "Oh, I just really love the show. I've watched it like 2 times already through, and I wish I could join you guys." And I was like, "Oh, could you?" Really? I was just like, I messaged him. I was like, I saw his comment. I was like, "Hey, would you like to play a Raider?" And he was like blown away. He was like, "What?" He actually wasn't trying to get a part in the show. He told me, he was just like, "Oh, I was just telling you how much I love it, that I just wish I could join you guys because it looks like you have so much fun, and I would love to be in the show." And he said that when I messaged him and asked if he would like to join, he was blown away. He had no idea. but he was thrilled. And he, unfortunately, his living situation wasn't ideal for recording regularly, and he had to do a ton of rearranging of his life, and he had to buy new equipment, and he had to do all kinds of stuff to get to the place where he needed to be in order to be in the show. And it took a couple weeks for him to do that. And he had some trouble with his account and getting a character started. He had to restart it like 3 times or something
Oh
like
my
that.
God, I forgot about that.
So
Yeah.
it was a challenge, but he was so determined to get in the show, and he bent over backwards to do it for us. And I'm really grateful, because I don't think we would have found somebody. I don't know. Maybe we would have, but it was down to the wire, really.
You hear that, Cade? You're 1 in a million, man.
So that was quite an adventure. Yeah, but we got Kade, and he was very well received by the audience. So I'm glad of that. And
Yep.
I think he brought, his character brought a lot to the show that it just wouldn't have been as good without him.
Agreed.
It created a dynamic for John to interact with a real person, and that created conflict, and it created just interesting conversations that wouldn't have happened if he had just been out there doing the quests on his own, just mumbling to himself as he goes along. That would have been kind of boring.
Right.
So anyway, that's the story of, in a nutshell, that's the short version of how Kade came to be in the
Yep.
show.
Thanks, Cade.
Yes, thank you very much for being here. All right, shall we go on to the next question?
We should. We've got a bunch. If we take that much time with every question, we're going to be here for the next 4 hours.
We probably won't take that much time for every one of them. All right, the next question is, what was the inspiration you had to start this series?
Oh my goodness.
Well, that was way back before season 1. I mean,
Right.
what was that?
Do you want to? I could
4
do a
years
salty
ago?
take on it. I think we answered this question last time, but I could do a salty take on it.
What is a salty
Uh,
take?
yeah, we actually thought it'd be a good game. No, I'm just kidding.
Hey, back then it was a good game.
Oh my God, we were so excited. I remember, I don't want to, we already answered this in the last one, but I remember just how much fun it was to share the Wasteland with another player. I mean, we had all been playing Fallout, all the other Fallout games, and just really enjoying them and getting into it. And, the only way that you could show a build would be to do something like what you did for your channel, which would be to just record your game, but that's still not sharing the world,
Yeah.
right? And so we were just all so excited. We were running around like silly little kids when it first launched.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I knew I wanted to do a let's play in the
Yeah,
game.
you did a auditioning call even before the game dropped on your channel, right?
No, I didn't.
Well, then how did I get into this
I
then?
asked you. I asked you if you
Uh,
wanted to do a let's play with me, and you said
yeah,
yes.
but all right. I'm like totally I know we answered this question in the last one, so maybe we
We
shouldn't
did.
go down this
We
rabbit
did
hole.
answer it in the
But
last when we talked about season 1.
yep.
But
But it
no.
was so much fun when this game dropped.
Yeah. So Dink was he was a patron of mine already at the time, and we played the beta together.
That's right.
And because when the beta was coming out, I asked on my what's it called,
Patreon. Yep.
Patreon. I was like, hey, any of you guys want to play with me in the beta when it comes out? And Dink was like, I will.
Yeah,
And
so this is weird though, because you were PS4 at the time and I was Xbox.
no, no,
How
no,
did we decide to go on Xbox?
no. I have always been Xbox on Fallout 76. I
Oh,
actually
okay.
got the Xbox on purpose to play Fallout 76 beta because it was only coming out on Xbox.
Oh, I forgot that part.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I asked in my Patreon anybody want to join me? And you were the only one who said sure. So we played the beta together and we got along really well. And so I was just like, hey, who would I play with in a Let's Play? Well, I only know Dink, so I'll ask him. I wasn't playing with
And
anyone else.
I do remember you were very hesitant to start it though because of the commitment.
Yeah.
Right? Because that was like 4 years ago now that this game was in beta.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Or
and
5. Was it 5?
yeah, and I don't know that either one of us thought we'd be doing it this long. But you were like,
No.
Dink, it could be years. Are you sure?
He might have said no.
If I believed you, maybe I would have. I don't know.
Well, I did warn you that it would be a long commitment, and you were like, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, I don't care. Let's do it.
So that there wasn't like really any inspiration, so to speak, to do it. It was just I wanted to do it because it was a new game, and I'd already
Right.
done a Fallout 4 role play. I didn't need to do another one of those. And at the time, I wasn't set up to do a Fallout 3 or New Vegas one. So I just was like, and it was new and I wanted to play the game, but I didn't want to play it by myself on my channel because it was a multiplayer game. And so that just sort of demands more than one person playing it, right?
Yep.
That
Oh
was
yeah, absolutely.
yeah, that was the
And
inspiration.
you don't want to rely on randoms on public servers
No,
to try to
no,
role play
no.
because people are playing all kinds of crazy different ways.
Yeah. So I definitely wanted to make it be I wanted it to be a role play. I didn't want it to be just me goofing off with random people. I wanted it to be a role play with a story because that's how I like to play games. So that's what we did. And I didn't even know if Dink could role play. I just was hoping he could when I asked him. So
Well, I can, yeah. So we'll get into this a little bit later, but I'm kind of on the light end of the role playing spectrum. I think most of the other people that have played on the channel are actually better at it than I am.
really,
Yeah. Well, that's just me.
I think
But there's some questions coming up that we can get into that more
I
on.
think you all are good role players. You're different levels of actor, though. Your acting abilities
I
at
am
different
not
levels.
an actor. That's clear.
Yeah. So role playing
So,
and acting are not the same thing.
no, they are not.
I think you all are good role players.
Yep. So
All right. Next question.
this actually gets exactly into it. Go ahead.
Are some episodes scripted or is it completely random? Yes and yes.
Exactly. And for me, the random episodes are the most fun
They are.
because that's role playing.
Mm-hmm.
And the scripted episodes, I think, move the story in a direction that it has to move and that we want it to move, but they are painful
Oh,
for me.
yes. I think they're painful for everybody. So we don't like script we have maybe there's like 1 or 2 episodes like per season where we actually wrote a script on paper and read it for a scene that we wanted to get perfectly. But most of the time we don't have a script per se, but we do have an outline that we follow where certain things need to happen in the episode. But
Yep.
everything around it is ad lib. It's not
I
scripted.
actually think the outline episodes are the hardest
Yeah.
because how many times did we do reshoots because one of us decided to just call an audible and go down a rabbit hole, and then you're like,
What are you
just stop,
I know. I'm like,
stop.
wait a minute, you guys, what are you talking about? You were supposed to talk about this thing, and now you're talking about this whole other thing. Redo
Right.
it.
But nobody wanted to do scripted because scripted's so hard. But there were times when we should have just scripted it.
There were times when we did script it. So there
I know.
was a scene, there are 2 scenes with Jack and Keren that we scripted. The scene where she's talking to him about having survivor's guilt in Foundation. That scene is scripted, and the scene where he's talking to her up on the top of the lookout tower later on after that, those two scenes were both scripted. That we actually read a script
Right.
that we had written down. The script is based on. I didn't just like come up with it out of the blue. We recorded ourselves having the conversation,
Right.
and then I wrote a script from that so that I could
Right.
get the dialogue and all the things that we say to make it sound like us. So it is
Yeah.
actual words that we said in a recording. It's just that, yeah, I wrote it down and then we read it in the actual episode.
Right. Right. It's almost like some of these scenes, like I remember the scene after Karen dies to the super mutants.
Guys, gets knocked out.
Whatever, you know what I mean. I don't have to stay in character. Um, but I just remember that we shot that and shot it and scripted and shot. How many, wasn't that 2 full recording sessions just for that 5 minutes?
Oh, in season 1,
Yeah,
it was a lot. Yeah,
it was
we
a lot. But that's when I think that's the first time that we actually said, okay, you know what? We're just going to script it. We've got to hit these marks. We've got to be in this spot at this time,
mhm.
say these lines. Wasn't that the first time we did it?
I think it was. I think that, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, just toward the end of the first season was when we first started like really scripting and really, well, not really scripting, but outlining and planning certain events that are supposed to happen that to move the story forward. Whereas before that, we were just sort of going with whatever came along, just the
Right.
randomness of the game. And a lot of the time we still did. Like season 2 was probably way more outlined than season 1.
Yes, it was.
I mean, I had an entire outline for every single episode.
Right.
Well, at least for the I kind of dropped the ball a little bit on the outline at the beginning. The first, I don't know, several episodes weren't outlined.
Right. But those were still those were more role playing. Those were like kind of role
Mhm.
playing, what had happened and setting up the season. So that was okay.
Right.
But I remember that, once well, here's the thing. Well, if we go to the next question, who was the cameraman for John's side?
Yes.
Um, so the thing that happened in season 2 was that you want to answer that question first, and then I can come back to what I was about to say.
Well, I was the cameraman for John's side.
Right. And so now on top of role playing or outlining or scripting, now we had blocking
Oh man.
because because we were constantly getting out of frame.
Uh-huh.
And so it's like as the season progressed, it became more and more produced.
It became more and more like a movie, like
Right.
producing a movie because for John's sides it was all like shot like a film would be shot, where I
Right.
was the cameraman and they had to, I would say action and they would go into the scene and do their thing. And if
And
it,
then we'd get out of frame and she'd be like, "What are you
yeah,
doing?"
they totally walked out of frame and had their whole conversation out of frame. They're like, cut. No, you guys do it over. You got to stand like right here. See where this like little root is. Stand on that root.
Right. Or that rock or whatever it was. Right, right, right. It was
And
terrible.
yeah. And sometimes they just would move in a funny way, or they'd stand on a piece of rubble the wrong way and they'd be floating or whatever. There'd be all kinds of things that would make us have to redo it. Or they'd mess up their lines or not deliver them when they're in the right place or something. So there's multiple takes of each scene with Kate and John.
Right. There'll eventually be a blooper reel, and I don't think I'll watch it unless I have a support puppy and a blanket.
Ah, come on. You can look back and laugh at it. Actually, we got some really good bloopers this season.
Oh my
So,
God, it's crazy stuff happened.
so that'll be
One of
fun.
the things that happened during the course of this season was loadouts. And loadouts actually helped quite a bit because I remember I'm going to go to the next question, which is how often did the camera get attacked, which was all the time. Um,
During
One of the
John's
things that happened
side.
with
Yeah.
loadouts, Yeah. One of the things that happened with loadouts is that then you could stack your character with the Chinese stealth suit and all the stealth perks. And that made a big difference.
For me, yes. So that's how, because yeah, the to read the entire question, during John's side of the story, how often does the camera get attacked during combat, and which story requires the most reshoots? And of course, we already talked about the reshoots, but yeah, Keren's side of the story rarely required reshoots because it was basically all just us playing the game,
Right.
like
Season one
always.
role playing.
Yeah, just
Right.
role
Yeah.
playing. It's from Keren's perspective. We just go. We say action and we go until the end, and then I say cut. Once in a while, we had to redo a scene because some reason, but it was rare. And
I'd be willing to bet it had something to do with Mac throwing a grenade, but just saying.
and so then, yeah, but in John and Kade's side, ugh, lots and lots and lots of reshoots, but not just, we did a lot of reshoots after the fact. Like we would record whole scenes and then I would look at the footage later and be like, oh, this doesn't work. You guys, we got to redo it. And we would go back and redo it. And there were some scenes we redid like 3 or 4 times on
Oh
different
my God.
recording
How many
sessions.
times did we do Ironworks?
Yeah, the Grafton Steel.
Yeah. My God, how many days did we spend in Grafton Steel?
Yeah, a few. But also
Like 4?
I think
Yeah.
leaving Watoga was probably the one we did the most reshoots on.
Oh my God, you're right.
Yes, where Kate and John are leaving Watoga and they're walking and they're having a conversation about what happened in the arena and stuff like that. That we did so many times. Cuz
we had a great scene that didn't make it. But it had an alpha deathclaw, uh, right, albino
it was an
alpha
albino
deathclaw or
death call.
something.
Yes.
Oh my God.
But
Anyway, didn't
we
make it.
yeah, but we ended up getting a sheep squatch in the final version, so that wasn't too bad.
Yeah, yeah. I guess if you're gonna trade, that's a good trade.
Anyways, what was the? Oh yeah, how often does the camera get attacked? Well, long before we even started season 2, we did a ton of testing on how to do this because we knew we were going to. Before we even started season 2, we knew that John was going to go on to the Raider side, and we knew that he would be having his own side story, and that I would be the cameraman. And so we did a ton of testing in advance to see how that would work. And we decided that Keren would be completely maxed out on her sneak skills and be wearing the well, I'm not actually Keren when I'm recording. I'm not recording on my Keren character. I was recording on my main. And
Oh, that's right, because your main had a lot more. Right. Go
so
ahead.
my main had maxed out sneak, and I also wore the Chinese stealth suit so that enemies wouldn't see me. And so actually I rarely got attacked. It did happen occasionally, but compared to how much footage we got, it really wasn't that often.
I remember the scene. What's the name of the guy who's in the trailer that um
Yeah, that
goes
raider.
feral?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the raider in the trailer that turns
That
into.
was the hardest scene to get with the camera getting attacked.
It was. We had to, because no matter how stealthy I was, he would always see me. And I needed to get into the back of the trailer so that I could show John coming in and seeing the scorched guy in there. And we actually ended up having to use what was it, phantom devices?
That's
I think we
right.
used phantom
That's
devices
right. Phantom
to
devices.
get in there and get in position, and then as soon as the phantom devices wore off and John became visible, we would action, do the scene.
That
Before,
was exactly right.
yeah,
Man, that took a long time too. There were
it
just a
did.
lot of scenes like that where we had to really work with the game engine to
Ugh.
get it to do what we needed it to do.
Working with the AI is really, really tough.
Yep. It's
Yeah.
like it must be the equivalent of being in Hollywood and working with a 3-year-old.
We're an animal. Yeah.
Right. Right.
Because
You just have to have
you
patience.
just have to keep the camera rolling and hope you get a good shot eventually.
There was a scene in Crater that the AI would not cooperate on.
Which one was that? Oh, the one with
In that
the
tent
dude in the
right
tent.
by Roxy. Yeah, right by Roxy.
That might be actually the scene we did over the most.
It might be.
The dude in the
Didn't we
tent.
didn't we end didn't we end a recording session because everybody was so frustrated? And just say,
Yes.
oh, the heck with it. Yeah.
Yeah. So the guy in the tent, the one raider that John and Kade go to question, I can't remember his name anymore, but
Yeah, me either.
he's outside and he's in a tent, and they have to go up and talk to him because it's about they're trying to find the mole. And usually the NPCs are just standing still in one place, and you could just walk up to them and start talking to them, and it's easy. And usually I can hear the conversation that John has with the NPCs. But for some reason, that particular conversation wouldn't let me hear it unless I actually joined the conversation by pushing the button to join the conversation. And so that made it difficult all by itself. So we don't actually get the very beginning comment that the dude makes because I
Right.
can't push the button until the conversation starts. And then also he was walking around, he would sandbox around in his little area. And they needed to be in a certain position in order to talk to him because I had to be able to block the scene and be like, okay, you're going to come into the scene and start talking to him when he's right here. And so we had to time it perfectly, except that there's a bear rug right in the middle of his tent. And those bear
Yep.
rugs like elevate you like 2 feet off the ground. And so they have to not be standing on the bear rug at the same time. So the dude has to be in the right place, and John and Kade have to come up and not stand on the bear rug. And then I have to hit the join conversation button right away. And all that stuff has to line up perfectly in order to get the shot right. And we did that shot dozens and dozens and dozens of times before we finally got one that actually worked.
I remember we were watching his sandboxing from outside
Mm-hmm.
and timing it so that we could run in when he hit the spot.
Yeah.
And it worked like 3 times in a row that we got close.
Uh-huh.
And then like the 4th time he walked a different route inside and we're like, oh my God.
I know, but then one aspect would work, like you grab him in the
Right.
right spot, but then maybe somebody might mess up their lines or something.
Right.
Because
Right.
there was a moment where the dialogue has you intimidate the guy.
Oh, that's
But
right.
since that's not really John's personality to do that, we decided to make Kade be the one who intimidate them, and John would just push the dialogue option, but it would be Kade saying the words, and then the guy would respond to Kade instead. However, Kade couldn't, for some reason on that recording day, he couldn't hear the game. He was having some
Yeah.
technical difficulties and he couldn't hear the game. And so I had to give him a cue to say his line when it was time. And sometimes he couldn't hear me because Discord would cut out my voice.
Right.
And it
Oh, it
was
was frustrating.
it was so frustrating because we would get all of the things perfect, but then one thing would ruin the shot and we would have to start over again until we
Yep.
finally got all of them lined up and we got one take that worked. And I don't even think it was a perfect take, but it was far better
Good
than all the others.
enough.
Yes, it was good enough. We did a lot of good enoughs in that season.
Yeah.
It's like we spent probably 3 weeks working on that one.
It was terrible. Yeah.
Mhm.
So the next question is, has the community created moments that interfered with the role play, or do you sometimes use private servers depending on the episode?
And in season 2, we used almost exclusively private servers.
And sometimes, oh, here you go. You want to talk about this? Sometimes we use custom servers because we are having trouble with
Oh, yes.
interior cells.
So this is how the game works. When you go into an interior cell and on a custom world, and this actually, the custom worlds was sort of a godsend because I don't think we would have been able to do the season without them.
Nope, we wouldn't have, because the first. Well, go ahead and set it up. But I
Yes.
screwed up bad in one of these. Go ahead.
So, in the problem with doing this recording this way, we're not having it just be spontaneous like it has always been with Keren, where Keren will just go up and talk to an NPC and that's the conversation. However it plays out, that's how it is, and we go on from there. With doing it with John, it wasn't always guaranteed that it would turn out perfectly the first time, because there would be all kinds of factors that could ruin it. There could be just a bad camera move, or there could be some weird glitch happen, which happened a lot, or John would mess his line up or whatever, or he wouldn't read
Or come in too soon.
yeah. So there would be lots of different reasons why it wouldn't work. And if you go through the dialogues with the NPC and it doesn't work, well, you don't get another chance, because you can't like reload your save or anything like you can in Fallout 4. And we were really worried about that, but luckily, like right before we started needing to record season 2, they came out with the interiors, the custom worlds,
it's
rather.
custom worlds.
The custom
right?
worlds.
And you
So with a
rebuild
custom world, you can do all the quests you want, and then as long as you don't advance your character on a public world or on a private world, you can reload your character into a new custom world and do the quest again. And you can do that as many times as you need to. And so that's what we did. We basically were reloading our save. So
Right.
so John would play up until a certain point, like right before a certain conversation that we needed to have with an NPC, and then we would go into the custom world, do the conversation, and if we didn't like it, he just reset his character in a custom world, and we would do it again and again and again
Right.
until we had a definite take that we liked, and then he would advance his character on the private world to the next conversation.
That's right.
And
all right, so I'm just going to say this for all y'all out there who think it's really easy to talk to an NPC and get a good take of it. I challenge you to download OBS and do it, because Dovah makes it look frickin' easy, and it is not, because there's a lag, right? Yeah, I mean I ruined. Well, I didn't ruin because of the custom worlds,
right.
But I caused us to have to reshoot I don't know how many scenes, because getting the timing right is hard. You hit that button at the wrong second and you're talking over the NPC.
Right. Or they're talking over you.
Right.
And also just making yourself sound like you're talking rather than reading.
Right.
That was another thing that you had a hard time doing.
Because there's prompts on the screen. Right.
And I've been doing it for a long time, and so I'm used to making what I'm reading sound like something I'm talking, and I'll even change the wording a little bit to sound more like something that my character would say. And Dink had never had to do that before, because when you play by yourself, you don't read your dialogues out loud.
You don't. That's right. That's a good point.
And so you're not used to talking to an NPC like they're a real person.
Right.
So
you're like, come on, get on with it. Get on with it.
Yeah, it took a little while for him to get used to it, but you eventually did, and you eventually didn't mess up as much as you did at the beginning.
Oh, well, yeah, practice. Well, that's what happens when you redo scenes like for 3 weeks.
Yes, practice makes perfect.
But I will say this, though, the community has been great, to the extent we've probably been on servers, because we do use public servers when we have to get a certain time of day.
Like nighttime.
Yeah.
Because
and go ahead.
Because private servers always load in around 11:30 a.m.
Right.
And if we need a nighttime scene, well, if you load into a private server, you got to wait around a long time for it to get dark. So if we have to just do a nighttime scene real quick, then we load into a public world and find one that's dark. And it doesn't take very long to find a dark server.
Right.
So that's
But
the
I
only
was just going to
time.
say that.
Mm-hmm.
But I was going to say that we've done it enough that I'm sure that we've been on a public server with somebody in the community at some point in time. And we have never had somebody run up to you and, fanboy you.
No, we've never encountered anybody that, that knew who we were that interrupted
Yeah.
us. We have been interrupted by just random players.
Randoms.
And
Yeah.
I have gotten messages from people on Xbox who saw us in the game, but didn't come over to us because they were afraid that we would be recording and they would be,
Right.
and so they were being really considerate and didn't interrupt us. But they sent me a message to say, "Hey, I saw you and John, but I
Right.
didn't bother you because I didn't know if you were recording or not." And I'm like, "Thank you."
Right. So that was just the question, has the community created moments that interfered? And I
Yeah.
would have to say the community's been awesome because they have over the whatever 3-4 years we've been doing this.
Yeah.
They have not. The community's
Right.
been wonderful.
The community has not. But the general
We used to have people dropping us gifts all the time. They're like, "Oh, you're really low level. Here, let me give you a super mega weapon."
Yes. So there were obviously more moments where we got interrupted in season 1 because we didn't have private servers yet.
Private servers. Yep.
But I think there might be at least 1 or 2 times in season 2 where we were interrupted by another player because we had to use a public server for some reason.
Yep.
But generally we used private worlds or custom worlds. And actually towards the end of recording season 2, even me and Mac and Jack, we used custom worlds. Whenever we had to talk to an NPC, we used a custom world because it got to the point where what if something goes wrong in the conversation? We won't be able to redo it. And I'm
Right.
glad we did that because there were times in Keren's side of the story where a conversation went bad. Like maybe Keren didn't have the right perk to pass a speech check or something that
Oh, right.
she needed to pass in order to get through the scene the way we wanted it to play out. And that happened a few times. And I had to stop the conversation and be like, "Oh, you guys, I don't have the perk I need." So then I would have to go put in the perk card and then we'd have to start the scene over.
Right.
Or there was a glitch. There would have been several times where there was a glitch in the conversation itself where the wrong dialogue options, like I would choose a dialogue option, but then the character would say the wrong thing and we would have to
Right.
start it over. So there were times when Keren even had to start over conversations. And so those custom worlds, man, they made it possible.
Right. So Bethesda, if you're listening, add a world start time to the custom world menu, and I'll buy 5 more years of Fallout first, just for that
Oh
feature.
man, yeah. That was the one thing we
Right?
missed. Yes, being able to change the time of
Weather.
day. Yeah, well, I mean, we can change the weather.
Well, yeah, we
You
can. You're
can.
right.
We
We can change the
always,
weather on the custom worlds.
uh-huh.
So you're right, just time of day.
Yeah, time of day. We just need a setting so that we can decide if it's going to be morning, even morning, noon, or night. Just even being that basic would have helped so much.
All right, so Bethesda, if you want to keep getting our dollars, that's what we need.
Anyway, all right. Shall we go on to the next question?
We shall.
Okay. Next question is, will you be doing the Pitt DLC?
So we would like to work in some of the Pitt elements, especially in the format of flashbacks for one of the characters.
Yeah,
but the Pitt DLC is not really conducive to our style of storytelling.
To role playing even in general. I mean, it's just, I feel like it's more like a glorified daily op.
Yep. I agree.
And it's not really, yeah, very good for role playing. And
Right.
also, our characters would have to have a reason to go there, and we couldn't really think of one.
Right.
So
Right.
probably we will not be playing the Pitt DLC. If we do use it, it will be in small measures for, yeah, like Dink said, for flashbacks or something like
Right.
that. But we
Now
don't,
we did spend the atoms to buy the pit pieces. So we could probably do some pit sets at some point.
yeah,
But yeah, I don't know. I think the short answer is nah.
no, probably not.
Probably not.
So the next question is for all the cast members. Of course, they're not all
There's
here, but
only two of us here. Yeah.
how has this experience been for everyone? And how has this changed, or has it changed the way you play games? And how much has this journey taught you? And what have you learned from this experience? You can go first.
Gee, thanks, boss. Um, this has been it's been an incredible arc in that if you go back to the first like 2 or 3 episodes on the season one, it really is still a let's play
Hmm.
at that point. And then there's like 20, 30 episodes where it's like general role play with some breaks where we like break the fourth wall and we like joke around and there's little slip ups here and there. But by the time you get to the second season, it's it's production
Yeah.
and it's outlined or scripted. And I've got to say, um, I um, I know that it was needed. There's no other way we could have done it. But that's not what I signed up for.
Right. Right.
And uh, nobody likes being bad at doing something. Uh, it just isn't fun. And I was consistently bad in the more difficult parts of season two.
Mm.
Uh, and I like role playing. But I would need formal training to be able to be an actor at the level that the really good parts of season two demanded.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, so that's how it's changed for me. It started out as a lark playing a game with a friend, and then it became role playing, and I was really jazzed about that. I was actually one of the people who was like, yeah, let's do it. Let's make this, full on role play, no character breaks,
Mm-hmm.
stay in character no matter what. But then once it got to scripted, I was like, I very quickly ran into my limits. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's the same for me. I enjoy the role play part of it. And I enjoy just getting out there and seeing what the game throws at us and reacting to it in character. And
Hmm.
but I do enjoy writing a story for it and following a story. I don't enjoy the scripted parts as much, although I don't think I hate them as much as you do. Because
No,
I'm,
probably that's probably true, but I don't get me wrong. The times that we've scripted, we had
yeah.
to make the story, and listen, I know this isn't Shakespeare. I know this is not some great art experiment, but we there were times that we wanted a certain amount of poignancy, that we wanted a certain amount of heartbreak, that
Mm-hmm.
we wanted a certain amount of friction,
Yeah.
and for a group of friends to really just role play that and have it come off the cuff, the first take, and have the game cooperate with it is like a unicorn,
Yeah.
uh, right? And so we had to have a script because the only thing we could hold constant was ourselves
Mm-hmm.
and just pray that the game cooperated with us.
Yeah. So
But no, I didn't like them. Go ahead.
I didn't like having to do so many takes over and over, and editing those
Yeah.
episodes was a nightmare because of how many takes I had to wade through to find the good ones, you know?
Yep.
And so it was definitely much more of a chore. It felt more like a job than just having fun playing a game.
Right.
And so chances are, if we ever do this again, we're not going to do it that way again. I don't want to, at least. To do the very, very cinematic scenes that are scripted and stuff, like what we did with John and Kade's side. That was just
Yeah.
that was just too much work.
Here's the
So,
thing. I would love it if you kept doing that stuff, just not with me. Right.
yeah, of course. I'm happy to watch it. I just don't want to do it.
That's right. Oh my God. Pick somebody else to go have an existential crisis and run off on their own. I'm sticking with Keren part next time.
Yeah, John finally came to his senses, huh?
That's yeah, and if there was anything in the world that could make John come to his senses, it was scripted scenes.
He's like, boy, Karen, being out on my own just isn't worth it.
It's just not worth it. You're right, boss. Whatever you say, boss, please don't make me do my own scenes with blocking.
Oh dear.
Anyway. Yeah, I don't know. I would love to, maybe I know that we had just planned this for the two of us to do it. This might be something to ask the other cast members and just have them do cameos. But it's interesting that you and I have kind of the same take on it.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, for the audience, we have not discussed these questions. We
No.
don't know. We have no clue what each other's going to say to any of these.
No, this is all off the cuff.
This is not scripted.
So, how has this changed the way you play games, or has it?
Yeah, so that's interesting. So I've had a bunch of things change in my personal life. So I don't game as much as I used to at all. I'm rarely on anymore.
Me too.
Uh, yeah, I know. Go figure. But some of you discovered that I've got a little tiny channel that has like 4 people that watch it. And I was trying to do an experiment where I would do some of Arc, but then I would go in and also do the technical side of it and show the server settings and how to manage the different I forget what they're called now, the different worlds, because when you've got a private server, you can load all this stuff in and you can set all these different settings. And I think I got 3 or 4 episodes in and I had a T-Rex eat my camp, which happens in Arc.
Yeah.
And
If you're
that's
Dink,
it.
it happens if you're Dink.
Yeah. Well, if you're Dink, it's Baryonyx eats your camp.
Yes.
But
Eats Dinkosaurus.
but yeah, right. The Dinkosaurus. Eats Dinkosaurus, you're right. So anyway, so I was playing around with that, and then life and like nothing. And so I guess if anything, it created like an aspiration to play games at that level and to share with the community and document the experience. And then, but that doesn't pay the bills, right?
Right.
And you've got family situations and other commitments, and you're like, you know what? I just need to turn that thing off and go take care of life.
Yeah.
And so I don't know that I can blame that on this arc, but that's definitely a lesson that occurred in the same time period. I mean, you kind of had a similar thing. I mean, I don't want to get into personal stuff, but I know that you've had a lot of stuff that you've had to do with your family, and
Yeah.
it's pulled you away from the digital creative side of the world.
It has, and it's even like pulled me away from the channel more than I can't spend as much time on it as I used to, and so I don't put out as many videos as I used to. I'm in no way going to like stop the channel or anything, but I have had to pull back from it, and so I don't have as much
Right.
as much time to devote to it anymore. And so videos that I promised would be out like months ago aren't out yet because I just haven't had as much time as I normally do to work on them. They are coming out eventually. It's just a slower process than I anticipated. But yeah, I haven't played Fallout 76 since we ended season 2, since we stopped recording. But
I play well, right. You're right. The only I was just going to push back on that, and I realized that the only reason I was in there was to do the retakes.
yeah, to do a
So
reshoot, yeah.
yeah. So that doesn't count.
So, but it was a season of life that I feel like is kind of come and gone, and that's okay. You don't play games forever. You don't play the same game for ever.
5 years, 4 years.
It's been, what has it been? 5 years, I think.
I don't know. I don't remember. You know what? I could Google it up real quick, but I don't remember when the beta dropped.
I
Because we
remember-
started playing like immediately after the beta dropped.
Oh, yeah, first day. But I remember seeing.
Oh, remember that? It was like we would have to coordinate our calendars because it was only live for like 3 hours on
Yeah.
a Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But I remember seeing a happy birthday Fallout 76, happy 5th birthday or something like that on Twitter or somewhere not too long ago. So I think it's been 5 years. Can you believe it?
Oh my God, that's just crazy.
So that's a long time to spend playing one game.
2018, November 2nd, 2018 is the, according to Google, that's, I think it was earlier than that, but that, we'll see. Anyway, so somewhere around there. So 4.5.
4.5. Okay. Huh. Well, anyway, so doing this show, it hasn't really changed the way I play games necessarily.
Right.
I've always been a role player, even before I started my channel, and definitely that's only gotten more intense since I started my channel. I role play very intensely when I play role-playing games. I even role play a little bit when I'm playing non-role-playing games because I just can't help it. But that's
right. You get into the character.
But that's how I have always played. So
yeah, like one of my favorite games to play is a looter shooter, and I still play it like it's a role-playing game.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so next question, and the next one is for me. What made you choose the name Keren? Also giving the current view of Keren. Do you regret it? Well, for one thing, it's not Keren, it's Keren, with an E. It's Keren, so it's not really technically the same name.
Right.
And no, I don't regret it. I mean, it's just what made me choose the name.
You can't dodge that stuff. Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, what
Go
made
ahead.
me choose the name? I just chose it because I don't know. I thought it was a good name. This was before Keren was a thing. So there wasn't any stigma attached to the name back then. It was just a name, and I liked that spelling of it. I've never really cared for the spelling with the A, so I just chose that one. I don't.
Right.
I don't really care about. Yeah, I don't regret naming her that. I mean.
No, I mean, oh my God, the fact that this is, on the internet with a comment section. If you worried about things like that, I think somebody would find you curled up in a little ball, somewhere in a deep dark hole, right? I mean,
yeah, things like that just don't bother me.
Yeah.
So.
No, that's, yeah.
Of course, then the next question is,
right.
Was it your plan to make Keren such an unlikable character?
I think that's a biased question because there's plenty of people in the community that like Keren.
Oh yeah, I get lots of comments saying that Keren is their favorite character and that they totally agree with her side of the story. And then there are people who are like, "Oh, Keren is wrong. Karen's being a jerk. Karen's so unlikable." It's really a matter of opinion. You can't please everybody. There will always be somebody who hates you and always be somebody who loves you. That's just how it is, no matter what you do.
So, children, this is why your parents tell you to just live your life.
Yeah. And I don't care what people think about Keren. She is who she turned out to be. I didn't plan her to be any specific way.
Right. It's role playing.
She's just reacting to what's around her. She's
Right.
dealing with a very difficult cousin. So,
He is not. He's very easy.
um, I don't know. I don't think she's unlikable, and a lot of other people don't either. So who knows? I don't know. She just
Yeah.
is who she is. If you don't like her, then that's okay with me.
Well, that's kind of the point. You just have to put it out there.
Yep.
So the next question is kind of funny to me because it hasn't been a problem. So the next question is, how is John getting cores without leveling up farming for them?
Fusion cores for
And
the power armor. Yeah.
yeah, and the funny part about that is that um, they last a lot longer than you think they do because you have to keep in mind with how much we're using custom worlds. They get reset every time the world gets reset.
Yeah.
Um, right? And so we actually had to lie about John. John had, I don't know, 15-ish cores when we started the power armor arc.
Hmm.
He never got down under 5. And in reality, but in the story, I started just doubling the depletion rate so that we could create the crisis for him to break from Keren, right? Uh, and the other thing to keep in mind is that even if that wouldn't have been the case, we all have multiple characters, and my main has like, I don't know, 110 fusion
Yeah.
cores.
Wow.
Uh, and so I would have never have grinded for him anyway. I would have just transferred them
Yeah.
from the main, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But you never
So
needed to.
I never needed to. And I think it's because I think that might be the biggest disconnect is that when you watch the show, it looks like that we're playing as hardcore gamers would.
Hmm.
And so, if you're just gaming, you burn through the cores pretty quickly. Um,
Right.
when my main, I rarely use power armor, but when my main is in power armor, yeah, it's a thing. You burn them out and you have to go grind for them every once in a while by taking over one of the power stations, right? Um, but because we're like mostly standing around or not doing all that much, oh, that is why I switched from the Gatling laser to the fusion big gun
Hmm.
because of the change in the ammo type. But other than that, it just was not an issue.
Right. And we were finding them fairly frequently as well. Just, Karen would find them for John all the time, too. So,
Yeah, we would find 2 or 3 per filming session.
hmm, it wasn't
Yeah.
really that hard. It's not really that hard. Um,
Yeah,
so,
if fusion cores are supposed to be a limit to using big guns and power armor, Bethesda, they're not.
yeah. It's- if
You didn't get that one right.
if you're just doing a casual sort of playthrough where you're not like constantly using it all the time.
Yeah.
And then
It's not that big of a
and
deal.
then of course John lost his power armor partway through the season and he was without it for a long time too, so he didn't even need them anymore.
Yeah, that's true. I still think Cade has that hidden somewhere.
Oh. Kade stole it, huh?
That or one of his buddies.
All right. And next question is somebody asking how old Keren is. I know I did answer this in the first Talking 76 episode for season 1. But they're saying they're guessing that she's in her 50s, but her personality appears to be early 20s. I don't understand that because I don't think my personality has changed from the time I was in my early 20s to now. So I don't know why I would.
Yeah, I would say that for most people, your personality better be locked in by your early 20s, right?
Right. So I
Or else
don't.
you maybe don't know who you are. I don't know.
I mean, maybe some people might change, but yeah, probably. I don't know. I haven't. I'm pretty much the same as I was. Maybe I'm not as shy as I used to be. I used to be really shy, and I'm not anymore.
Yeah, that kind of fades with time. At least it did for me.
But I don't see why Keren would be different in her early 20s as she is now in her, whatever 50s. I can't remember her exact age, but yeah, she is in her 50s. Um,
Oh, 50s? I thought she was like 47, 48.
is she? Maybe she's
I don't
48.
remember.
Oh, I don't remember either. You guys go watch the first Fallout
Right.
76
Come on, this
thing.
is all on the videos.
Yeah, we did a a Talking
We did
76
birthdays.
for season 2, for season 1, I mean, and it is in the season 1 playlist at the end. So you can go watch that, and I say what her exact age is there.
Yep.
So I don't know, like, what her personality seems to be younger than she is. Maybe that's what they mean. That she feels younger than 50s,
Yep.
but I don't know why. I mean,
I would take it as a compliment and just
yeah,
leave it at that.
yeah, yeah.
It's
Okay.
like being carded, it's like being carded at the grocery store. Oh, that's so nice.
Yeah. And I've always been thought of as younger than I actually am. When people try to guess how old I am, they always guess way younger than I actually am. So maybe it's just
Yep.
me. Maybe I'm just young, young at heart.
Well,
I'm.
I think that comes from you being an optimist at heart.
Oh, yeah, could be.
Because people generally think I'm older than I am, and it's just because I come across as crunchy a lot of times.
Hmm.
I just it it is what it is, right? But
Yeah.
I bet, yeah. Anyway, go ahead. You
Read
can read the next
read the
one.
next one. Okay. So Dink, can you still tell where John ends and Dink begins?
You
Sometimes
know,
I
this is
sometimes I don't think so.
well. So I read this question. You did send these questions to me about a week ago, and I read that, and I was like, hmm. I wonder if Dova wrote that one
No.
because and here's the reason why I had that thought. It was either I actually thought, well, okay, of everyone in the community, the only two people who could write that question with any kind of perspective are you and Mac.
Really?
Yeah, really. Because the only two people in the entire community that I've spent any time with as Dink are you and Mac.
And Jack Darth, yeah.
Darth, but not as much.
Hmm.
Mac and I did a bunch of testing for this together. We've done some other projects together, including a Arc server for
Mm-hmm.
the community.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, you're probably right. Darth probably knows me well enough to ask that question, but that's it, right? So this question feels like it comes from the cast.
It comes from a
Uh,
a Dink fan.
oh,
They
does it?
they're a
Okay.
thing. They're a thing. The Dink fandom is real.
There are a few that I've caught wind of. You're right. And so, all right. So here, you know what? I'll do my best to answer this question, and it goes like this. Um, uh, I borrowed quite a bit from my late teen years to create the character John.
It's a good thing we didn't
And
know each other then.
uh, it's yeah, no, no, there are all right. All right, my real world wife says the same thing. So that's. Um and so there it's a very blurry line when you think of it from the perspective of person. But it's a really sharp line when you think of it in terms of years and experience.
Hmm.
And so one of the reasons that I made the decision to do that is that I wanted a role-playing character that would be easy to play,
Mm-hmm.
because I thought going into this that there would be a lot of other things that I would have to juggle to play a character, and so I specifically chose a character that would be easy to play. Now, there are things that I've done with John uh, to make him unlikable,
Mm.
to make him difficult. And there were probably things that I did in my youth that I've blocked that were the same thing. Right. Right. But I would like to think that for the people who really know me, that it's pretty easy to tell. Uh, you know, what's John, what's in character, and what's Dink.
Yeah.
But I'll leave that to the audience. I have a good feeling for what the delineation is, but to the extent that there's confusion, it's probably because I did not stretch very far to come up with this character.
Okay.
There you go. That's the best I got.
All right. So moving on.
Yes.
Will Mac rejoin the Brotherhood of Steel? We get that one actually a lot.
Yeah. I think we
And
should leave that one unanswered
yeah,
because spoilers,
well, you know, it really depends. It depends on if we do a season 3, and it also depends on what that season will end up being about, and whether or not that's something that Joe thinks Mac would do. So,
Well, right. And there's backstory elements that haven't come out yet that I
mm,
don't want to get into that would, you know, lead to an answer to that question.
right. And actually, I think I'm going to skip a couple questions and answer the one: will there be a season 3? Because
Yeah, go for it.
that really would determine the answer for a few of the next questions that are coming up. Um, will there be a season 3? We get that asked a lot. And the answer is we don't know yet for sure. We've talked about it. We've kind of run through some ideas here and there for what it could possibly be about, but we don't have anything solid nailed down yet.
Nope.
And we're not in a hurry to figure it out yet. So it's still up in the air, I think. And we said this probably in the last Talking 76 we did, which was kind of more like a channel update more than a Talking 76. But I think, I don't remember when we said it. I remember saying it, though, that, or maybe I said it in a channel update, but whether or not we do a season 3 will depend on whether or not we can write a good story for it. And also on whether or not all of us are available for a season 3. Our lives have changed a lot over the last 4 years. Everybody's has. And we're not all as available as we used to be. So it's towards the last half of season 2, it got harder and harder for us to meet regularly,
Yep.
all at the same time in order to get into the scenes together. And the only reason why Jack was even in season 2 was because I was able to have separate recording days with him and Mac, separate from John, because John was off doing his own thing. And so I had 2 recording sessions a week, one with John and Kade and one with Mac and Jack. And that is the only reason that Jack was even in season 2, because he couldn't coordinate with Dink's schedule, and Dink couldn't
At
coordinate
all.
with
Right.
his. And so if they have had to be in the scenes together, it was really hard to find time that was available for both of them to be in the same episode together, in the same scenes. And so actually splitting John off from the team for a while actually allowed Jack to come forward and be in the show, whereas before he would have had to drop out. So
That's true.
yeah, so It's gotten a lot more difficult, and I don't foresee it getting easier anytime soon with
Yeah,
it.
unfortunately.
So, everyone's jobs changed, their hours have changed. What used to work for us just doesn't work anymore, and we haven't been able to figure out something different yet. Not to say that we never will, it's just that right now we're not like trying to make it happen anytime soon.
Yep.
So,
Yep. That might be a very disappointing answer for a lot of folks, but it is honest.
but we had a feeling that it would be this way, and so we wanted to wrap up season 2 so that it would have a good ending just in case it is the last season. We didn't want to leave it on a cliffhanger or leave things unanswered. So,
Right.
hopefully we delivered a satisfying ending to the series if indeed this ends up being the end of the series. So,
Right. And that was hard too. We argued about that a lot because, well, no, I mean, we did. There is a strong argument for leaving questions open,
right.
and it, and at the end, I'll let the audience judge, but I think we did a pretty good job of tying up enough
Yeah.
of the story without it feeling like a Hollywood, uh, bow on a present.
I
You
think we
know,
left enough questions unanswered that
I do
if
too.
we did
Yeah,
a season 3, some stuff would carry forward into it.
yeah, I do too.
So, we'll see. We'll
Well,
see.
so since we're jumping around now, I'm going to let you pick the next question.
Yeah, I was just going to skip forward to that one and we can go back again. The next question is John going to join the Brotherhood of Steel?
Well, I can make that one really short. I like the Brotherhood of Steel quest line. I think there's a lot to work with there. I think it's one of the better ones in the game.
Mhm.
But that would have to be a team decision. It does fit. So the tech fits John, but the order really doesn't. If you're really paying attention to John, he bristles under authority
Yeah.
and rules. He likes he likes calling audibles and being out there, right? And so to whoever wrote that question, and I get it. These are combinations of multiple people writing the questions.
Mhm.
You kind of get John because he is a geek, and he is tech oriented, but he doesn't really seek out a command structure to tell him what to do.
Mhm. Right. I mean, just the way he interacts with Karen is proof of that.
Well, in the way he interacts with Mac,
Mhm.
right? I mean, he wants advice and guidance and approval, but he doesn't want orders.
Right.
Yeah,
And he doesn't want to have to do things that he doesn't want to do.
right,
Yeah.
right. He's really bad at taking orders.
Yeah.
So the
Um
next question.
well, first since I guess I didn't order these questions the right way, but then that would naturally flow
Go
into
ahead.
will you do the Brotherhood of Steel quest line?
Kind
Um
of the same answer.
yeah.
Mac.
Well, the
Go ahead.
reason that if we kind of want to, like we want to. Let's say that right up front. We do want to, like Dink said, it is one of the better quest lines in the game.
Yep.
But we would have to have a good reason to do it. And
Right.
right now, we haven't found a good reason for any of our characters to join the Brotherhood of Steel. And so we would have to really play with that and figure out some kind of way. We've thought of just doing parts of it that would be relevant to our characters or whatever, but it would be a challenge to work that in, I think.
Yeah, we would. Yeah, it's a bit of a reach.
Yeah. So I'm not going to say no, but definitely not going to say yes either. It's
Well,
a
so one of the things that we bonked into with this is that it kind of made sense for it to be, well, in one telling of the story, it kind of makes sense for it to be a Mac and John side adventure.
mm,
But then we get into scripting,
yeah.
blocking,
Mhm.
camera person, and
Mhm.
we've all agreed that we just don't have the bandwidth uh, to do it, to make that happen. And unfortunately, that might be what keeps us from doing the BOS quest line, is that, that's the way that makes the most sense with the characters, but it's also just, it's, I hate to say it, but it's a bridge too far. It's too much work. All right, so community members, if any of you want to be camera people or production people, right? Reach out. Maybe we'll reconsider. But with the way that we did season two, oh my God, it would be really hard for it to be Mac and John doing that.
Yeah. And it's just way too much work for me as well. I just to be the
Right.
camera
Well, that's why
person. Yeah,
right.
and
That's
then
why I said if there are
to
production people out there that want to
yeah,
get in.
and then to edit the episodes and sort through all that footage. It's really time consuming, and it's really not something I want to do again, especially since I'm going to be doing that for season 2 of my Fallout 4 role play, and I really can't have two shows going that have that much post production going.
Right. Oh my God. I can't even. That's why you almost need somebody to, like, By the way, folks, these are all volunteer positions. But if all y'all want to volunteer, reach out.
Yeah. So, anyway, yeah, Brotherhood is still quest line. Maybe. We don't know yet.
Yeah. Hard maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, next question. Is John will John ever pull that stick out of his rear?
This question. All right. All right. So, of all the questions in the deck, this is the one that I thought was the funniest, because I actually had to Google up the Urban Dictionary to get a definition of that. Uh, and the best one I found was when someone simply will not budge or admit wrongdoing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I don't know what to do with this question.
Well,
I'm gonna go with no.
I feel like I think this question was probably asked in a comment under one of the videos earlier in the season.
With John's being a real jerk.
Yes. And so maybe it doesn't even apply anymore by the end of season 2 because he kind of did pull it out.
Ish.
Ish. I mean, he admitted that he made a big mistake about leaving, and he admitted that he was doing some stuff wrong and he wasn't going to do that anymore. I don't think that it changed his personality. Like he's still John. He's
Right.
still John.
He's still stubborn.
And he's still going to have that stubborn streak in him. I would like to think that he doesn't ever like go against Keren anymore the way he did. That
Well,
he
we've played that out.
Yeah,
I
that he
mean,
really did repent of that and that he's not going to do that again.
yeah,
But he's still probably going to be difficult once in a while just because who he is.
right. So this kind of feeds into the whole season three question again, and that is that, you know, to a large extent, the stick and rebellion are huge parts of season two, and they're done. We
Yeah.
put a bow on that.
That was the conflict for season 2.
Exactly. And so for all y'all out there who are anti-stick, you're fine, right? Because that storyline's over.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Keren learned her lesson too, and she's going to treat John with more respect and care about his opinion more than she used to as well. So,
Right.
um
But it is a funny question.
yeah. And so the conflict for season 3 would have to be different. We'll have to come up with
It will be
a new
different. Yeah.
conflict. And we
Yeah,
kind of
absolutely.
know what it will be if we do a season 3. We do have ideas for a conflict for season 3, but we're not going to tell you what it is.
Well, I will guarantee you it is not going to be me on the other end of the camera person.
No. Uh, all right. Next question. Do you think you'll ever do the Mistress of Mystery quest line? That actually has been brought up as a possibility for season 3.
Yeah.
I know that
I'm a big
Joe really
fan
wants
of
to
it.
do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so Mac and I both have done that quest line on our mains, and both of us think it is the best quest line in the game.
I've done most of it. I never actually did get around to finishing it though.
Well, then I'm not going to go any further. No spoilers here.
Oh no, I know
Uh,
I know what happens, but yeah.
I actually do think it's the best quest. All right, and so that's both a compliment and a criticism of Fallout 76.
Hmm.
But I do think it's the best quest line in the game.
A lot of people do.
Yeah.
And so, yes, we have talked about putting it in there. There's been some discussions about it, but we haven't come up with anything conclusive yet about that. So, I guess you'll just have to wait and see. If we do a season 3, we might try to work it in.
Yep.
Yeah.
This is a spoiler-free Talking 76.
Yes. All right. Next question. Are Blu and Lucy ever going to join again? And also, there was a question that I didn't put in this lineup, but this is related to that, is that whatever happened to them? Why'd they leave the show?
Yeah.
And it mostly just came down to the fact that they just couldn't do it anymore. Their schedules just didn't allow for it. Or rather, Blue's schedule didn't allow for him to be in the show anymore, and it felt weird to keep having Lucy in there with her just saying, "Oh yeah, Blue's off on some trading expedition. Oh no, he was just here the other day. You missed him." And we just keep missing Blue over and over, and after a while it started to feel a little weird that Blue was always
Yeah.
gone. And so we tried to get him in, and he wanted to, but he just couldn't. His schedule just didn't allow him to. There were times when we scheduled him in and then he'd have to cancel at the last minute, and we would never be able to schedule him back. And so we just were like, you know what? Maybe it's time to just write them out of the story. We tried
Yep.
to just write Blue out all by himself. Like maybe at first we were thinking we would just kill Blue off and keep Lucy in. But then after a while, we all agreed that, nah, let's just, Lucy's like not in it very much. We wanted her to be in it more, but it it was difficult to schedule with her because she lives in Europe, and so her time zone was so vastly different from everybody else's, and it was just really difficult to schedule them in, and so we just decided to take them out altogether. And
Yep.
that's unfortunately sometimes, your life changes and you just can't do it anymore, and I'm just glad that that didn't happen with the main characters,
Yep.
before we were done.
Yep.
It could have. It could have.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
then so
No, Lucy was Lucy and Blue both had hooks that could have bent the arc of John's story.
mm,
And there's a very poignant scene where Lucy like calls out John for being such a jerk, right?
yeah.
And that was actually one of my well, I don't know. Yeah, go ahead and say it. One of my favorite scenes to play. Because well, no, because it actually gave the audience, what Lucy was saying to John in that scene
hmm
was what a lot of the audience comments were saying,
Yeah.
right? And so it created this way for my character to kind of, without breaking the fourth wall, to break
Yeah.
the fourth
She
wall,
was like an audience
right?
proxy. Yeah.
Uh, right, and it was a really cool scene. And then Blue, as the tinkerer, traveling salesman, power armor guy, there was an opportunity there for John to really become an apprentice to him. And they
hmm
lived right down the valley from us.
Yeah.
Uh, and so that could have been, if schedules would have aligned better, there would have been a really rich storyline that we could have used with those characters. And so um,
Yeah.
this kind of ties back though to the very first question in this talking session. And that is that if you're gonna be a part of the story long term, there's and I'm not saying they didn't have commitment. I'm just saying you've got to have commitment with a capital C,
hmm
and the events of the world have to kind of cooperate.
Right. And
Right?
sometimes they just don't, and it's out of your control.
Yeah, so I would have loved to have had both of those characters continue to participate,
Oh, me too. I
continue to
I
be part
loved
of the
I loved
world.
hanging
But
out with them. I loved hanging out with them.
well, Lucy was the only girl time you got
Yeah.
in
I
the
know.
entire show.
I know. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Well,
anyway,
yeah. All right.
just saying the
Next.
apocalypse kind of sucks. So go
Yeah.
ahead.
So, do you plan on any of the main characters um, to die or get injured severely? Or
Well, I feel like we've done severe
we have done
injuries.
some severe injuries. I mean, Jack got shot twice. um, did John get it?
All right, so I got taken apart by a death claw.
Right. Keren got attacked by super
Super mutants.
mutants a couple times, actually. So there have been some injuries. I'm not going to
So,
talk about whether or not any of us is going to die because that would be a spoiler, wouldn't it?
well, I've actually asked to die a couple of times.
And then I answer, no, you can't kill off the main characters. This is a story about Keren and John. If you kill off John, you can't have the story.
It's not Karen and John anymore.
Yeah.
And to which I've often replied, so it'll be a story about Karen and somebody else. But
And
anyway.
and then I'd be like, but then I wouldn't want to do it anymore.
You remember though, the first time I died was the sausage ghouls. And we're
Yeah.
like, oh no, what do we do now?
Yeah. Oh, let's just have you get knocked out. Okay, yeah, that'll
That
work.
was season 1 though.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Anyway, so no, even if we did have plans to kill off any of the characters, we're not going to tell you about it. It'll be a surprise if we do or not.
We've been, and in terms of injury, we've been dancing around. All right, so these aren't spoilers. This is actually in the show. Mac is dealing with severe radiation issues.
Mm-hmm.
John has gone through. He hasn't gone through a drug use arc, but definitely alcohol
Mm-hmm.
has been part of John's story. Survivor's guilt has been a part of Jack's story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, all right. So what mental health issue is Karen carrying around? I don't know that we've ever talked about that.
Mm. Yeah, and I think it would show up in season 3 because we do have some plans.
Yeah, right. Okay, no spoilers. You're
Yeah.
right.
So there is potential for Karen to be in a pickle in season 3.
Yeah.
But that's as far as
Well,
we're going to go with that. So, all right.
okay, you're right.
Yeah. All right. And have you considered adding either a regular or a light ally to your camp in the future? I had considered it way back when the allies first came out, of doing one of the ally quests and having an ally. But after playing through them myself, I decided against it because they aren't, there's not as much interaction with them as you need. You can do their quest, and then after that, they just hang around in your camp and say the same things over and over. And since so far all of our interactions have been with each other, being able to talk about whatever we need to talk about and go do whatever we need to do with whoever we need to do it with, it would feel really weird to make an ally one of the main characters of the story and have them living at our house, but we can't interact with them to the level that we can interact with each other. And they can never go with us on our journeys. They would always have to stay behind for some reason. It just would feel weird, and it would just be way too restricting, I think.
The only way to make it work would be if we had somebody who was and this isn't me. The only way to make it work would be to have somebody who's like voice actor quality that could mimic one of the voices
Mm,
so that you could do the ally quest because there's two ally quests that are pretty good.
right.
And one's the astronaut and the other one's the raider.
Mm-hmm.
Those are both good side quests. The only way to really make it work would be to find somebody who is a voice talent capable of getting close to either one of those voices so you could do the quest and then pivot to like a cameo where they're in their own camp that we run into them every once in a while.
Yeah.
But
But I don't know that it would
I don't
bring. I
know.
don't know that it would bring enough to the story to make it worth it.
Right. There's that too.
So,
So, well, right. Given how difficult it is and how long it takes us to do a season, we could do that or BOS or Mistress of Mysteries.
right.
And both of those have more appeal than the Allied quests.
Yeah. So chances are we won't do them.
Okay.
So, but again, everything is up in the
It is
air,
what it is.
for season
Yeah.
3. We don't know for sure about anything. So we'll see. But I doubt it. So, all right, next question. With all of the traveling you guys do, have you thought about a second camp up north? I
Go ahead.
maybe you think maybe down south because we are pretty far north already. We don't really need, we travel south more than anywhere else. So, and yeah, we have thought about it a couple times, having like I don't know, sort of
Well,
a,
here's another mechanic that came up during season 2, and that is the ability to buy additional camps.
yeah.
So back in the day, I had several other Xbox accounts that we could build camps on, so that we could move around. But with the advent of additional camp slots, that's like easy. That's like no big deal. And so we'll probably always keep John's Raider camp as a set. And if we get back up north, we'll probably use it, right?
Right.
And there could be a time that we go down south and we stay there for an extended period of time, and then we'll use another slot on Keren to create a southern camp, right?
Right.
And so
Well, and there's going to
the
be Jack. If we do a season 3, at the end in the last episode of season 2, Jack talked about his plans for making a greenhouse down near Foundation somewhere, and that he would have to move down there. And so
right,
he will probably be doing that in season 3. And so there will be a camp down there like that's his.
right.
So, so
Yep. So yeah, so if we do a season 3, so we all all right, so that's what's so funny. This community was built on to a certain extent. Well, I don't want to all right, so I don't want to oversell it, but your build videos from Fallout 4 drew a lot of people in
yeah.
to your channel. And that's how I got brought into your channel. Um, and the new camp system where you have multiple camp slots really really brings Fallout 76 more in alignment with Fallout 4, because you now can build many places across the wasteland. And if we do a season 3, there's plenty of opportunity to show the gang moving around, setting up temporary shelter, doing whatever we need to do over a period of several episodes, and then going back to the farmstead,
Yeah.
right? Which was something we couldn't do in season 1.
No, because we only had each one camp. And so Karen's was the house, and
Right,
John and Jack's were the camping,
right.
traveling
And then
camps.
my avatars were some of the sets
Yeah.
that we did.
Yeah. And then in
Yeah,
season 2, at the beginning of season 2, before they rolled out the extra camp slots, Jack had a house and Karen still had the house. And so we had to use John's camp for the traveling camp. And
right.
then by the time John split off, they had introduced the camp slots. And
The
so
slots.
so
Right,
Karen has the house slot and then the traveling camp slot. And Jack also has a house slot and a traveling camp slot. And John had his camp up by Crater. That trailer that he was living in up there, that's actually a set we made. That's not an in-game location. And then he also had a traveling camp as well. So
right. Yeah, the slots, the loadouts and the slots and the custom worlds all contributed to us being able to do this season.
yeah. So I hope they never take custom worlds off.
Oh my God. I know, but we're all afraid that they will because of according to the media, they're not used very much.
I know, and if they take off custom worlds, it'll be very difficult for us to do a season 3. Very, very difficult. At least one that involves NPCs.
Right. So Bethesda, time of day, custom worlds.
Yes, keep them. Keep them for the creators, please.
That's right.
All right. Next question. What were your guys' favorite episodes? Oh my goodness.
Oh my God, that's such a hard one.
Especially since it's been a long time since I've seen a lot, seen most of them. So I'm probably not even remembering them all anymore. I
You know
mean,
what go ahead. Go
well,
ahead.
so
Go ahead.
there's two different, like, favorite finished episode or favorite episode to film.
Oh
Because those would
God.
be very
Well,
different.
favorite episode to film is like going to be super hardcore spoiler. Are you sure you want to talk about that?
Well, for season 2 or for season 3?
Oh. Okay. All right. Now I caught up to you. I was thinking that you had in your mind like an idea of something we've never done
No,
that
no,
you would
no,
love to do.
no. Like, so there could be two versions of a favorite. Like,
I understand. Go ahead.
yes, if you had a favorite episode that you would to watch, a finished product, it might not necessarily be the same one as what is your favorite to film, because favorite one to watch could potentially be the most difficult one that we didn't really enjoy filming because it was so
Right.
hard.
Right.
And I think
All right. So
that's
which
true.
question do you want to answer first?
Yeah, well, I don't know. I enjoy the ones to watch. To watch. I enjoy the ones that have a lot of character development and a lot of conflict. Not I'm not talking about like arguing between characters. I'm talking about internal conflict.
Right.
In the characters where they're facing their demons, so to speak. Those are my favorite episodes, and I don't know if I can pinpoint in like an exact episode that's my favorite, but those are my favorite types of episodes. The story.
Yeah, so I have to agree with you on that. Uh, so the episode with, see, it's been too long since I played it. So we were the episode with after John's on the Raider side of the standoff with Penny.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And we're in the street. That exchange was so raw and so real that's one of my favorite. And another one of my favorites is when John. Go ahead.
We didn't practice that one either. That take where Keren and John are talking on the street, that was one take in the can. We didn't even rehearse it.
That was role playing.
Yeah.
That was hardcore role playing, and it was awesome.
Yeah.
The other one that was hardcore role playing was John laying into Kade. And he didn't know that was coming.
Kade didn't?
Do you remember that?
Which one?
No,
in which
right?
one? When they were walking down the street?
You're just a raider, I can't trust any of you.
Right.
That was cold. That was role playing. He didn't know it was coming.
Yeah.
As an actor, as a role player, that was just one of those things that we started to take, and I just went for it. And it was so much fun because it was organic and real.
Right.
So what's your favorite organic real scene?
I probably would have to agree with you with the Keren and John conversation. I had been looking forward to filming that whole episode for a long time, because we had that one planned out way in advance.
Yeah.
And just the fact how we had to work it out just so that John could be in the room with Penny and all the raiders when Keren walks in. We had to do some finagling to get it to work, but I loved the idea when I first got the idea to have John be there when Keren walks in, and it's the first time she knows that he joined the Raiders. I loved that story idea, and I wanted to make it work so bad. And that was actually Um, it was we had to do some practicing to figure out if we could actually get the scene to work, to get John in there and stuff, and I had to do some editing in post-production to make it look natural.
Right.
It wasn't an easy scene to film, but I like how it turned out and the conversation with John afterwards. Yeah.
Yeah. Because it was real.
Mhm. So, that's probably one of my favorite episodes.
Yeah, and what's so funny about it, we got so much trouble from the audience. So many people in season one thought you and I were a couple.
Yeah.
And
In real
right,
life, yeah.
right, and we did everything we could to avoid affection and flirting, because all right, spoiler, we're both married to other people.
Yes.
Um,
Not to each other.
right. And so that scene in the street is the only time that John tells Keren he loves her.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it was real. It was a very cool scene. That for me, season two was really hard.
Mhm.
And I love that scene because it was role playing and it was emotional and it was raw and it was organic and it wasn't scripted and it worked.
Yeah. And when I said cut, I was like, "So, what do you think?" And you were like, "I like it." I was
Yeah,
like, "Okay, we don't need to do it again." And you're like, "No, let's keep it."
I had a tear running down my cheek when you
Aw.
said cut. I was like, "Oh my God." That was we did it. I was like, "We did it. We pulled it off. We got it to the finish line and it was hard."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess another one of my favorites, and I don't know about whether it's my favorite episode because I don't really um see the series as episodes. I see them as scenes.
Right. Me too.
And my one of my favorite scenes, I don't know what else happens in this episode. I don't care, but one of my favorite other scenes is when Keren calls John to apologize to him for, you know,
Oh,
everything.
and lets him go? Are you talking about
Yes,
that
lets
one?
him go. Yeah.
Oh, that was such a heartbreaker.
Yes, and I liked acting out that scene because Karen cries, and
Yep.
um, yeah, I really liked that. I liked making that scene. That was fun.
Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, that was hard. Oh my God. Being on the receiving end of that was like, oh, because you've got to, because to make that scene work, I had to be such a jerk,
Uh-huh.
and I had to be like, I had to just take it, right? And I don't, what did you think of the exchange with me and Kate afterwards? Because I was pretty emotional in that scene too. Like, man, I lost her. It felt like a breakup phone
Yeah.
call.
Yeah. I know we had to do the scene with Cade over a couple times.
We did,
And I can't really
and that
remember
made it harder. Yeah.
which version we ended up keeping. So,
Did you keep the comment where I said, "Hey, Karen, we're looking at the same moon"?
yes, yes, that was a separate scene
Okay.
where we both stood on the edge of a cliff or something and looked at the moon at the same time. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So to me, those were role playing though. Those were more organic.
Mhm.
That's what got me jazzed about the whole thing, the whole project.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I don't think we have like specifically like favorite episodes. We have favorite scenes because
Right.
that's how we recorded them. We didn't record them as episodes. We would
Right.
record like 5 scenes this week, 3 the next week, and then I would edit them into episodes later.
Right. And so that was season two.
Yeah.
That's part of what made season two so hard
Yeah.
is that it was a production schedule,
Like you
not a bunch of
guys,
friends getting together to
right.
play.
And you guys didn't necessarily know, at least in the episodes that Cade was in, and even some with Karen, you guys didn't necessarily know which episode we were recording at any given time. You just knew which scenes we had to do.
That's right.
And sometimes we would record some scenes from one episode and then some scenes from the next episode in the same session.
Right.
And we rarely recorded all the scenes for one episode in one session. Even on
Right.
Keren's side, like on Keren's side, we would record the first half one day and then the second half the next day.
Right.
So
Crazy.
yeah, so we really identify the scenes but not the episodes. If you asked me what was in episode 40, I wouldn't be able to tell you.
Right. That's right, because we broke it down as a scene schedule
Yeah.
because it was different groups of people. I forgot. You know what? I didn't forget that. I blocked that.
Uh, we can look back at
The
it and
next
laugh
question.
now.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, you know what? How there's an old saying about this is that comedy is born of tragedy, and
Yeah.
that should be like the title of this Talking 76.
I mean, don't get us wrong, you guys. We had a lot of fun making the show, but there were days
That we were yelling at each
that we
other.
were at the end of our ropes because it was just so
Yeah.
hard and we were getting so frustrated sometimes. But it
Yeah.
wasn't all the time. It was just once in a
No.
while. Yeah.
No. But the next question though is a perfect one to do a call out.
Mm.
Would it potentially be possible for another content creator to join your series if you continue on with roleplay? To this, I will simply answer with one word. Please?
Oh man. Yeah.
There are some great voice actors out there in the Fallout
Oh,
76 community.
I always wanted Rycon to join us. He'd be great, but he plays on PC.
He would be awesome. I
Hmm.
know that's the problem, right?
I
Everybody's too
would
busy.
absolutely love to do a role play with Rycon. I mean, I've worked with him. He is helping me with some stuff for my Fallout 4 roleplay season 2 that's coming up, but not I haven't worked with him in like on a one-on-one role playing. He's just done some voice acting for me. And so yeah,
Yeah,
that
it would be awesome.
yeah.
Collabs would be awesome. We'd have to find a way to make it efficient so that they could get in and get out.
Yeah.
Um, but
Now the problem
yeah,
with doing that with another content creator is that they would want to also be creating content for their channel at the same time.
right.
And so making that work would probably be a little bit difficult because they would have basically a different version of the same episode
Thingy. Yeah,
on their channel
yeah,
from their character's point of view. And yeah, there would be some logistics we would have to work out for that. But yeah, I wouldn't be
yeah,
opposed to it for sure.
yeah.
But I think you actually missed a question.
Oh, sorry.
Because we were talking about our favorite episodes and you skipped if given the
Oh, you're right. I did.
opportunity would you do something like this again in the future? Again, I mean that still is up in the air. I like we already mentioned, we don't really want to do this level of production again in the future with the basically doing
Yeah.
cinematography for a game
Well,
role
cinema
play.
photography in an engine that isn't friendly to it.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, you know what? So we have, and Mac is really good at this. Um, we've thrown around probably four other uh, multiplayer gaming worlds just as ideas,
Right.
and um, unfortunately, Fallout 76 is where we have our, well, fortunately and unfortunately, Fallout 76 is where we have our greatest overlap in games.
Mm.
But like when Dove and I were doing the Dinking around an arc or whatever it was called, where Dink dies every episode.
Yeah.
Um, uh, uh, in that, I was still all about the technology and the advancement, and Dova was about the creative, primitive aspect.
Mhm.
And so, if there was any reason why the arc gameplay, well, it also died because of scheduling.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
the main
yeah,
reason.
that was the main reason. But we were already diverging, right? As I learned more and more about ARC, I wanted to get into the tech stuff.
Right.
And you were more like, no, let's do the primitive, blah blah blah.
Primitive Plus. I wanted to
Um,
play on Primitive Plus, and you're like, no, let's do all the tech stuff.
right, and so for us to find another game world that clicked all the buttons for us on a multiplayer thing would be tough because we're very different gamers.
Yeah.
We have different things that we get into. Like for example, Mac and I tried to do a little bit with the Division because so the Division has like all kinds of political overlays to what's going on in the world, and I had pitched doing, like a liberal conservative gameplay in it.
You did?
And as yeah,
I never
and
heard
as
about
we
this.
talked about it, no, because it was just the two of us.
Hmm.
But as we talked about it, we're like, you know what? This is just going to get so much hate piled on it
Yeah.
that it's just not worth it, um, and it's not a game style that Mac enjoys.
Mm. Yeah. The Division isn't really a role playing game.
It's not, but it does. Here's the thing. All right. So this is exactly the conversation that Mac and I had, in that I think it could be with a high enough level of production.
Yeah. I mean,
Uh,
Rycon tried it,
okay.
and I watched his Division role play, um, and he did a pretty good
We'll have to
job.
check it out.
Yeah, he did a
I'll
pretty
have
good
to check
job,
it
but
out. I haven't seen it.
he didn't finish it because it frustrated him too much. It kept
It's super grindy.
yeah, it
Yeah.
kept breaking his immersion too much, and he finally just rage quit.
Yeah. Yeah. I get it. So
So,
yeah, so I think as a group of creators, or all right, I'm gonna come off that limb. You're the creator, I'm the gamer. As a group of role-playing oriented gamers, I think we would love to find another sandbox,
yeah. Oh,
but man,
totally.
it's gonna be hard. Yeah.
I actually threw out the idea last time we talked as a group of maybe even doing Skyrim together. Um,
Yeah.
because
But
they
we
came
haven't
out
tested it yet.
right, right. Because so Skyrim has a mod that it just was finally released to its final version, or at least it came out of beta, I should say. It's a mod called Skyrim
Right.
Together, and it allows you to do multiplayer in the world of Skyrim, and I think that would be really fun to do, but there is some issues with the mod that would make it very difficult to actually role play because there's some limitations to how the mod works and what you can and can't do in the game as a group.
Yeah.
And it would stand in the way of a role play. I think if we just went in and goofed around and didn't try to role play, I think it would be just fine. Because
Yeah.
Gopher has a role play with Che in Skyrim Together, or it's not really a role play. They kind of role play, but it's a really light role play. They're always getting out of character, but it's funny. It's really funny,
Yeah.
and it's fun. So I wouldn't be opposed to doing that, or doing another arc, maybe on a different map, or when Arc 2 comes out, maybe doing something
I
in
would
Arc
love to
2.
give a shot. All right, so keep me on your list. If I haven't already ticked you off too much,
Oh,
keep me on your list for Arc 2.
yeah.
Because I would like, so I've got a decent amount of computer equipment at my disposal.
Mm-hmm.
So if we were going to do an Arc 2, I'd want to do it with a private hosted server so we have control.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so all right, there you go. That's our answer.
Yeah, we're not
Arc
opposed to
2,
doing
maybe.
yes. Yes. Would we consider doing it again in the future? I totally would love to do other games for sure in the future. And it just would depend on what kind they are and what kind of story we would be telling, or if we would just be goofing off too. I mean, the goofing
Right,
off gameplay is obviously way easier to do.
right,
So,
right.
but as
So
of right
the
now, we don't really
go
have
ahead.
any plans to do anything else, but totally
Right.
not opposed to it in the future.
So I guess the next one is, can I join the role play? And the answer is absolutely, but the bar is ridiculously high.
Yes.
And you will have to play. You'll have to not only have all the equipment and the quiet time and match up with our schedules. Uh, you'll have to play a character in the world, and you'll
Mm-hmm.
have to commit for an extremely uh, um, well, I don't want to. I don't. God, now I like just disqualified everybody. But it's a big commitment. You'll have
It
to
is.
commit for probably 50, 60 hours of your life. We'll have to go into even being a minor character.
Yeah. And we had
Yeah.
ideas for maybe having just really quick one off, one episode cameos of other players just doing quick roles, but we're not really
Yep.
sure how that would work into the story. We haven't worked out all the logistics of doing that, but that's a thing that could possibly happen in a
Right.
third season, is just occasionally bringing in somebody for just like one or two episodes and then they just go on,
Right.
like they meet a traveling merchant or something, you know, that
Well,
they
so all right. So I'll say this: if you're on Patreon, hit us up, and you're on Xbox.
yes,
Hit
you
us
have
up
to be on
with what,
Xbox.
right? Hit us up with what your traveling merchant outside of one of the camps, uh, fixed NPC type person that we can run into.
Mm-hmm.
Pitch us that. That's probably the easiest way to get into the role play.
Probably.
Yeah,
And that's assuming we do season 3, of course.
of course.
Yeah.
So I think we've answered this question before too. Have you guys ever played Fallout 1 and 2?
I have not.
I tried to play Fallout 1. It's really freaking hard. It's like video games have gotten a lot easier over the years, I think.
Oh
Because
yeah.
Fallout 1 is punishing.
Oh
And
yeah.
no, I've never tried Fallout 2.
No.
I started Fallout with Fallout 3. I didn't even know about Fallout until I played Fallout 3, and Fallout 3 just hooked me.
Yeah. The same here. Yeah. So,
All right, so we got to the end. Last question.
last
Is
question.
is Fallout 76 worth picking up? Like, is it pay to play or what?
It's not pay to play.
It's pay
Um,
to build.
Pretty much. If you want to build really cool stuff, you're paying for them. You're paying
Right.
for the camp objects to build with. I mean, you can earn atoms, which is the currency that you use to buy things in the game.
But it's a grind.
It's a grind. It's a really huge grind, and so a lot of people just do just cave in and buy them, but you don't have to.
Right.
You can grind for it if you want. I did for years, and I got sick of it, and that's the main reason why I stopped playing, is because of the grind. I just got sick of it.
Right.
But
But it's not pay to win.
no, it's not pay to win. You can still play the entire game and all the quests, because they don't sell like weapons and
They don't
armor,
sell. Well, the only thing they sell that really makes a difference to me are the lunch boxes.
because you can get really big buffs from
After,
those.
right.
Yeah,
You can get, like, with 4 lunch boxes, you get 100% XP bonus.
right.
So,
But
but yeah,
you can earn lunch boxes in the game though from
through
quests.
that.
So
So, if you're a fan of the Fallout universe, it's definitely worth playing. If you like playing with people online, multiplayer games, it's a lot of fun. If you're willing to accept the fact that they made a bend from dark and tragic to
goofy.
tongue-in-cheek 50s geek humor,
Yeah.
that's probably the thing that bothers us the most, is that it went
Yes,
from being right more tragic to being more comic.
it
Uh,
is.
but yeah, if you haven't checked it out and you're looking for something to add to your game library, go for it.
Yeah, it's definitely not the same game that it was when it first came out. It's very different. And so if you played it back like during the beta, or initially you bought it way back when and then you stopped playing it for whatever reason, It's a completely different game now because there's the NPCs and there's more quests to do than there ever was before.
Right.
And so it feels more like a traditional Fallout game in that sense. But yeah,
Right.
like Dink said, it's not as serious as like Fallout 4, for instance, even. And even
Or
Fallout
3.
4, I mean, each Fallout game has progressively gotten less serious than the one before it. But Fallout 4 is way more serious compared to Fallout 76, especially if you take
Hmm.
into account all the things you can build in your camp.
Right. Absolutely.
It's just really
So,
wacky stuff. So,
right.
um, but no, I think that it is worth trying out.
I agree.
And it's even worth playing for a year or more because I did it. I did it
Yep.
and I really enjoyed it when I was doing it. Um it does get tedious after a while. After you've done all of the quests and there's nothing else to do except grind for atoms, then I don't think it's worth playing anymore. But that's totally up to the individual to decide that for themselves. So
Right.
give it a shot.
Well, yep,
They
absolutely.
frequently have days where Fallout 76 is free to play, so you can keep an eye out
Yep.
for days like that and just try it out, see if you like it. And yeah.
Yep.
So,
So I just want to transitioning here. I just want to say thank you for inviting me. I really enjoy the Talking 76 episodes. It's an opportunity to not be John.
oh yeah. It's fun.
And I'm
It's
still,
fun.
yeah,
It's
and I'm
fun to
still a
talk
huge
about it
fan.
and not
I'm
just
still a huge fan of the content.
yeah,
So I can't wait to see where Ellie's going. So you
meaning
know,
my Fallout
uh,
4 roleplay character. Yeah.
absolutely, yep. So there you go.
And this is 2 hours. Over 2 hours we've been sitting here doing this.
I know,
So,
right? So you're
so
gonna have some editing to do.
well, I don't know. Actually, most of the viewers comment that they really like our longer videos, so I don't think anyone's really going to
Well, then
mind.
I dare you to put it up as is.
Yeah.
So anyway,
But that is all the questions for this episode of Talking 76, everybody. Um
thank you for
yeah.
sending them in. Yeah.
And if we didn't answer your question, if for whatever reason we might have missed one, I don't know. But you can ask it down in the comments and we will be sure to check that and answer it
Yep.
there. And if you guys have
That's
any
right.
other questions that we didn't talk about today, feel free to ask them in the comments down below and we'll chat with you down there.
Sounds good.
And I will, of course, be keeping you guys updated on a possible season 3 or any other games that we end up playing in the future. I'll keep you guys updated about that. But as of right now, there are no plans in the works for anything definite. So we're kind of just
So
taking a
stay tuned.
yeah, we're kind of just
Yep.
taking a break for a while to
Yep.
decompress and do other things for a while.
Yep.
And all right, well, I guess that's the end of this video.
That's right. Stay safe.
Yes. So we'll see you guys when we see you guys in the next one. And until then, remember to play safe, play nice, and have fun. Bye, everybody.